Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses, and this is Mystical Rites of the American Indian by Ralph M. Lewis, FRC, an article taken from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 24, Number 3, April 1936. Mystical Rites of the American Indian by Ralph M. Lewis, FRC. During the last term of the Rose-Croix University, I had a pleasant interview with one of the students. She resides in the Southwest and has become extensively interested in the rites and ceremonies of the various tribes of Indians who live within her state. She has made extensive journeys by horseback into the interior and wild regions of her state to witness these centuries-old rites. According to this student's remarks, not all persons are permitted to witness these sacred ceremonies. At different times in the past, accounts of what has been done in these rugged settings by these children of nature have appeared in newspapers and magazines. Most often, the author of such accounts wrote in a disparaging manner of what he had seen. It could be realized that the writer had no comprehension of the significance of the rites and that he was unfamiliar with the mystical concepts underlying the basis of primitive religions. It would be further apparent that he failed to appreciate that the acts were allegorical and symbolical and should not be taken in purely an objective sense. Fortunately, the lady with whom I had this interesting interview was one who had made quite some study of the symbolism of early cultures in North and South America and was able to appreciate the meaning of most of what she had witnessed. The 9-day cycle. The most important Apache ceremonial is preceded by 9 days of preparation. The actual ceremony includes the practice of healing. The patient is seated in a teepee, or if unable to be seated, is recumbent, and eagle feathers are affixed to his head. Outside of the teepee are 2 teams of ceremonial dancers. One of the teams represents the good or beneficent forces of nature, and the other the malefic or evil forces. The actual dance depicts a struggle between these 2 forces, apparently for the control of the 2 natures of the patient. At first, the evil seems to be in the supremacy. The team depicting the beneficent forces, or the good, have their voices drowned out by the chorus of the evil team. Gradually, this changes and the voices of the good team are supreme, showing the final supremacy of good over evil. Sound and color. According to the account made by my visitor, the Navajos have more ceremonies than the Apaches. There is no particular ceremony for any specific disease. The patient chooses the ceremony from which, in his opinion, he feels he may derive the most benefit, spiritually and physically. The hogan, hut, is prepared according to prescribed ritual, and the preparation of it includes the use of sound and color. In other words, a very distinct relationship between sound and color has been established and employed by these Indians. The preparatory time, that is, the time used for the preparation of the hogan, and the arranging of the color scheme which corresponds to the music, is from 7 to 9 days. The medicine man or shaman is, of course, the principal character in the ceremony. He directs the entire proceedings, and all of the members of the tribe have implicit faith in him. It is not that he is thought to accomplish whatever is done, but rather that he is an intermediary for powers that are transmitted through him. The family of the patient, prior to the actual ceremony, are all gathered in the presence of the patient and the medicine man, and they are obliged to attune themselves to the spiritual efforts of the medicine man. In other words, they are not only to concentrate upon him, to watch his every act and gesture, but are to respond emotionally to the emphasis of his words and to the intonations which he uses. Elaborate symbolical and geometric forms are drawn in the sand, using various colored sands for the purpose. These have a definite meaning, which all who hope for the recovery of the patient must keep constantly in mind. There is a central fire, around which persons must perambulate in a clockwise direction. This is really the perpetuation of the ambulatory rite which is found in the rituals and ceremonies of almost all ancient peoples. On one side of this central fire is a group of singers. At a given time, the patient is brought out and is seated on the sand painting in the midst of the symbolism drawn there. The medicine man and music. Prior to this time, however, the patient has had to proceed through a rite of lustration, namely purification. Not only is the patient bathed, but all of his utensils and clothing are washed or asperged. One of the patients observed by our visitor was so ill that she had to be raised to her feet and supported. She was apparently suffering from pneumonia. The medicine man treats with contact treatment, a laying on of hands, and by a magnificent rhythmic sweep of the hands, downward and upward. The sweeping gestures would symbolically seem to mean the drawing from the heavens of the power of the gods, down through the medicine man and into the patient. The gestures also depict the drawing away from the patient, into the earth, that condition or those forces which amount to the disease or illness of the patient. All of this is done so rhythmically, in time with music, that all who are watching eventually sway unconsciously in harmony with the gestures. Possibly the actions, the music and the color, all synchronized from long study and practice, produce an hypnotic effect upon the patient, as well as undoubtedly affecting the patient psychically through the senses of sight and hearing. The medicine man's hands pass in this rhythmic motion over every part of the body, and as he does so, the chorus sings in a high falsetto key, which really amounts to an intonation. Those listening can feel the vibrations of the sound reverberating in their solar plexuses and thence up their spinal columns. The healer or medicine man constantly chants in his native tongue the words, "Beautiful and perfect is the spirit of body." At other times, he suggests health to his patient. Undoubtedly, the whole rite resolves into a method of inducing an hypnotic state on the part of the patient. The suggestions implanted in the mind of the patient have a subsequent psychological and therapeutic value. The particular patient who was suffering from pneumonia and was so ill that she could not rise prior to the ceremony, at the end of a day of such treatment was observed to get up and walk about unaided. The following day, she was apparently as well to observation as any others attending the ceremony. Harmony. During the ceremony, small quantities of earth and a small amount of water are given to a patient. The earth, the water, the central fire, and the gesture to the heavens, which may also be taken to include the element of air, suggest the fundamental elements which go into making the human form, the proper harmony of which would mean the health of the body. These four expressions of nature, called elements, have been used symbolically from the earliest times in rituals pertaining to health, and in initiations where the consciousness of the individual was to transcend from one plane of understanding to another. Another interesting point is that the sand paintings are protected by a spectrum or rainbow of various colors drawn about them. Again, this spectrum depicts harmony, the unity of all of the colors which are found in sunlight. This spectrum is made to form a protective chain about the symbolical designs in the sand painting. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.